Welcome back, Overwatch fans, to another amazing night.
We have a fantastic match tonight, no question about it.
Oh my god, yes!
But the barrage! Make sure they can't even follow up afterwards.
And Watch has found 2 in this fight thus far. Make that 3, make that 4 right now here. Dynamic team gets a 4-man tire!
Those who find the picks will save the fights, and they don't really need to save what they've already won.
100 gets 3! Wins the Primal Rage!
Experience tranquility.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Tranquility Gaming's Wednesday night feature match. I am Mr. Yeti. Joining me tonight is Ty Munster.
Hello.
Tonight we are bringing you a Rare Harmony tier Wednesday feature match featuring 2 elimination pool teams. The Fighting Potatoes, the longest standing team in Tranquility, take on the Turbo Throwers in a high stakes, high pressure matchup as both these teams are fighting for the playoffs. Ty, we have an exciting one here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams came out of that stage 1 position 1-4 in their divisions. Turbo Throwers, I believe, had the higher map differential. I can check that real quick, but it was actually, it looks to be Fighting Potatoes actually they were more competitive. Even though they were last in their pool, they were still more competitive. Apparently, they had more map wins despite being last, and Turbo Throwers were second to last and had a worse map differential, so that's not something you see every day. But as for the roster players, we just got out of event week. One person you might recognize for sure was Pugster, who was playing excellently in the Ana division. I'm very curious if we're going to see some of that today. The Ana play was sublime.
And going over to the rosters here real quick, there are some new additions on both these teams that are bound to have an impact for certain. Obviously, Man Bro Dude sticks out immediately there. They are on DPS today, even though they're marked as on tank on the roster here. It looks like just and then we also have Scarboy added for the Turbo Throwers as well. So we have some changes on both the teams as well. Fighting Potatoes also bringing in Vila for the first for their second match with the team here in this week's matchup. So lots of new additions on these teams as they look to change things up moving through the elimination pool here, Ty. Lots at stake going on right now. But we're going to starting off tonight on Nepal, which is a really good test early on. You got to play a lot of different comps on this kind of map.
Yeah, you got one map that's really good for a brawl composition, or if you want to run a Ball Farah comp, it's also good for that. And that's obviously Village. You have Nepal Sanctum, which is extremely good for your double shields of the world. Even if you want to run a Hog, that's totally viable. I personally say Hog is a main tank, but that's up to teams. Teams don't really like to play that sort of style. And then when it comes to the third option, which is brain fart. The last option, I can't remember what it's called. The one with the tower and the building for the point. That map is a lot more varied in what team. Village, thank you.
Yes.
It's a lot more varied in what teams run. You see some 6-man, a lot of brawl is played here. I personally think 6-man is a little bit better. Maybe you can run like a soldier and an echo. I've seen a lot of that work. I think Tracer, though, is a super important hero. If you're not playing a brawl comp, you're playing a Tracer on all 3 of these rounds.
Absolutely, definitely. A lot of different comps we can see here. It looks like the teams are getting ready right now. Taking a look here, obviously, again, Turbo Throwers with their new tank Scarboy in there, as well as new DPS Shen Shen. Looking over at the Fighting Potatoes, new with Man Bro Dude as well as we get onto these maps. It looks like Fighting Potatoes are going to be coming out with some, it looks like a Brawl composition, and it looks like Turbo Throwers coming out with the 6-man with a little dose of Symmetra. But here we go. The elimination pool match is on the way right now, and we're having trouble seeing the match currently, unfortunately. There we go. Back up now and running as both teams get to the point very quickly with Fedora swinging the hammer through. Takes a hack from Shen Shen as well. That Symmetra is going to be a problem here for the Fighting Potatoes. Going to have to make an adjustment, but Mr. Mountain Mike gets in, but he gets stunned out with a fantastic flashbang by Pithy. That's going to open the door here for now for the Fighting Potatoes to get aggressive as Man Bro Dude finds Scarboy as well. It's going to send the Turbo Throwers running at warp speed back to the point, or back to the spawn.
Yeah, funnily enough, both these teams running out with the Reaper, not something you see a lot with the Reinhardt compositions. I was saying earlier, you should be running a Tracer if you're running anything except for a Brawl. The exception is obviously 6-man, where you can absolutely run Sombra Reaper. I think Tracer is still extremely viable here, but an interesting potential Sombra Mei coming out here that's not totally unviable. You don't have quite as much damage as you would with a Cassidy, but the hack onto a Reinhardt, onto a D.Va as well, even a Baptiste, can do wonders for your team.
And it can, and the hack goes off again onto Fedora, who gets taken and frozen out by Mr. Mountain Mike. Solitary Bird with that defensive matrix and that perfect lamp from Pugster is going to open it back up for the Fighting Potatoes here, as Man Bro Dude again finds the main tank on that Reaper so far. And again, it looks like another fight and another fight win for the Fighting Potatoes.
Yeah, Turbo Throwers struggling just a tiny bit to catch up to them, and the ultimate advantage is starting to look a little bit steep for Fighting Potatoes. They don't quite have this high noon or window available as they just used them, if I'm not mistaken. But the beat on both sides, as well as the Death Blossom, EMP has to be big here from Shen Shen.
Sneaky Kitten and Jacob F gonna need to come up big for both their teams here as we get into this next engagement. But Pithy finds a second. The hit scan for the Fighting Potatoes comes up big with 2 early kills. EMP late from Shen Shen trying to find a way to turn it around, but that will not do the trick as Pithy walks away with a 4K. And Pithy leads the Fighting Potatoes now, looking at last fight right now for the Turbo Throwers as we're at 80% and counting.
Turbo Throwers are staring down a massive wall without that EMP. They have very, very little to get into this next fight. The Shatter was used by Fighting Potatoes, but it's going to be really hard to make things work even without that tool for Fighting Potatoes because you do not have that critical EMP, even if you do have a beat.
All right, both teams Pithy pops the Deadeye here, gets around the corner, not able to find any kills, but Man Bro Dude is, as he spins to win through the backup line of the Turbo Throwers, and that is going to be a quick and decisive point A here for the Fighting Potatoes, moving up 1-0 on this map.
Shows how potent it is to get that first capture on a control point, even if sometimes you might have a suboptimal composition, which they absolutely didn't. It's so important a lot of the time to get that first capture onto a control because you get an early ult advantage, you get the positioning advantage, and it's so hard to push into that, especially if you force swaps onto the other side after you cap first. Then it's really difficult to come back into that because you have the ult disadvantage on stacking on top of the fact that you just lost a fight, you also switch. So that early switch from Turbo Throwers means they don't have the same resources Fighting Potatoes do to really steamroll through that round.
No, not quite. Definitely not the round that Turbo Throwers was looking for. But the nice thing about King of the Hill is you can bounce back real quick on point 2. And both teams are now locked in here as the map is underway right now. It looks like both teams TPing to the point quickly. And Fedora gets on the point just slightly before. But the wall separates them from the team. And the Turbo Throwers are able to take point control initially here. Fighting Potatoes posting up outside the point as Shen Shen sets up his base on the inside of this point here. It's going to be real tough for the Potatoes to break through. Both teams mirroring each other a little bit here, but Man Bro Dude on the Doomfist is the one kicker here to change things up. However, the Fighting Potatoes aren't able to push in quite yet, and there goes Scarboy right now finding Fedora here, and the kills right now are swinging all in the favor of the Turbo Throwers. They use the amplification matrix just to secure this point, and it looks like Turbo Throwers will walk away with this first fight and 20% on the point.
really easy to point fingers at that Doomfist saying Manbro Dude should be on the Mei, but realistically, Turbo Throwers just got to point faster. They used the speed better, they used the teleporter better, they got onto point, set up the base, impossible to push through that, especially with the slight advantage the Mei gives you. A little bit less damage from your Mei, but you do end up just walling them out through spam, damage, and just through point control that there's no way for Fighting Potatoes to get in.
Fighting Potatoes TP to high ground here, and here comes the walls now from both teams. Pithy looking to charge up that beam power right now, but Scarboy has an Earth Shatter as there are just so many things on the point right now, but there's a massive Earth Shatter from Vidora, but a counter shatter from Scarboy, followed by that sound barrier from Jacob F. Lots of ultimates invested here for both teams, but it looks like the Turbo Throwers will come out on top here on Village here, moving up to now 60% and counting.
One big slam demands another excellent play from Scarboy and Vidora. Vidora not quite landing a big enough shatter to counteract the one that came down second from Scarboy. And Scarboy's big slam, realistically, it did just straight up win them that fight, but again, it's the positioning that Turbo Throwers have. They're clinging onto this point for dear life. They're not overextending too far to make some things happen.
Fighting Potatoes right now on their last leg as they push into point here. Pithy very low right now for the Potatoes, not yet down, but the Meteor Strike from Manbrodude will find the Baptiste. Manbrodude finds a second as Vidora charges in as well. It takes down Mr. Mountain Mike, and finally it looks like the Potatoes are going to be able to put their roots into this point, but it's at 99%, Ty.
You do eventually cap, but still, even if you lose this round, it's not the end of the world because you do already have that first round win. Don't need to worry about Turbo Throwers just winning the map immediately once you lose the round. But Manbro Dude finally found a lot of value that fight through the disruption and the distraction of the Doomfist that he can really provide comparatively to Turbo Throwers, who didn't quite get as much value. It felt like they were getting a little bit cocky that fight.
And we are now back to it here. The TP in now from the Turbo Throwers. They pushed in, but a huge Earth Shatter from Scarboy takes down Vidora. The wall separating out Vidora from the team there. They have no main tank anymore, but Pithy is up to full strength right now. Pithy trying to work his magic with that Symmetra through the Turbo Throwers, finds 3, and Manbrodude with a punch on Mr. Mountain Mike despite a fantastic Earth Shatter from Scarboy. Doesn't look like the Turbo Throwers are going to be able to follow up on that and take that point. But Fighting Potatoes right now about 50% and counting here on this point.
It can feel really tempting to just go aggressive. The main tank pick is the first and most important one you always want. Losing Scarboy early can feel like an instant loss for Turbo Throwers, but they play back, they play slow, they get a better Symmetra wall critically as well. Pithy didn't quite get as much value out of it, and Senchen could just buy so much time with that ultimate.
Absolutely. The amplification matrix now invested from Red Mudkip. Manbrodude punches his way through with the Meteor Strike there, gets caught out and taken down, unfortunately. Big overextension from Manbrodude. And here comes the sound barrier from Jacob F, but a huge Earth Shatter from Vidora. Opens the door and takes down Scarboy. No main take now for the Turbo Throwers, but Solitary Bird now finds 2 kills for the Fighting Potatoes. Here comes the barrier now as well from Pithy. But here comes Shen now, turning the corner and getting a couple kills himself. But it looks like Pithy is going to come out on top of this Symmetra duel for now, as we're at 99%. The overtime clock will begin to tick here, and it looks like there's only a Tracer only a Lucio and a D.Va left in the Turbo Throwers, despite going up 99-0 on this point. The Fighting Potatoes managed to claw back, and they will take Nepal, going up 1-0 on this match.
An excellent reverse sweep for that round of Nepal, never even reaching Sanctum, just playing Village, and also Village and whatever the other one is, you know it earlier, but
Village, Shrine.
Village and Shrine. Shrine, that's the one!
Yes.
It's a great reverse sweep from that round from Fighting Potatoes. Turn the momentum back into their favor from Turbo Throwers, who looked excellent early on in that round, then eventually just slowly losing their grip. And by the end, the Doomfist was able to get so much value that in a scrappy fight, you don't really have a chance with just a Mei and your Flexipia slot compared to the Doomfist, who can just go wild when there's a very scrappy fight going on like that. But unfortunately, looks like we've got some technical difficulties.
Yeah, it looks like we got a couple of technical difficulties here. I think we're just going to take a quick short pause while we work those out, guys. Right now, though, however, the Fighting Potatoes up 1-0 against the Turbo Throwers. We will be back here. We need about maybe 5 minutes, so stay tuned. More action coming up right around the break. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you very much for your patience there. Just had a small technical issue, but our awesome producers tonight in Unfeatured and Hippie are taking care of it right now. So thank you guys very much for helping out with that and getting everything back on track. But it looks like Fighting Potatoes are now currently sitting up on a 1-0 lead after Nepal. Scoreboard should be updated any moment now. But Ty, first map, Fighting Potatoes, pretty convincing start.
Yeah, I mean, Turbo Throwers definitely were in the lobby that second round, but the first round it felt like it was all Fighting Potatoes, complete control from them. But Turbo Throwers definitely started showing some life as the map went on, so I'm very excited to see what they can do on our next map, which I do not believe has been revealed quite yet.
Mhm.
Our producer knows what it is, but he's keeping it a secret from us because he doesn't want us to know.
Looks like both teams are going to Hanamura on this next one here. This is Turbo Throwers pick. Turbo Throwers choosing Hanamura. Hanamura, it's one of those maps that I think is a love it or hate it type deal. And that first choke can be very restrictive on the compositions you choose, with only one real way to access the point. A lot of people tend to go to that Symmetra strategy. And would you expect to see something here similar, given the fact that we just watched Symmetras happen here?
For sure, if I was coaching one of these teams, which some people would be like, please don't let him do that. But if I was coaching one of these teams, I definitely would try something else because I have a couple strategies that I've cooked up over my time as a coach and player. For Hanamura in particular, I think it's a super interesting map, even though I always talk about Volskaya. I think Hanamura is the best designed and most interesting 2CP map in the game. But that's mostly just because of what you can run on defense. On attack, it is a little bit bottlenecky. You have to kind of run the Symmetra. And the only interesting thing is, where do you actually set up the TP on?
Absolutely. That's the question: is, do you go right point? Do you set up on top or try to go to high ground? There's that kind of nifty little spot where you can move all the way up on top of Pagoda. There's a lot of different options you can take here, but we'll see what the teams decide to go with. Looks like the Turbo Throwers will be starting us off on offense here, and they look to be going into that Symmetra strategy here. Shen locking in on that Symmetra. Looking over at the Fighting Potatoes, it looks like they are sitting on that brawl composition here again, but with that Symmetra once again as well. So we will see some beams, we will see some walls and turrets. Ty, the question just is, how exactly will Turbo Throwers approach this point?
Approach it very Turbo-esque. In this composition with the Junkrat especially, you can play a lot more aggressive than you might expect. especially because into the May, you have enough damage to break the wall early if it comes up, and this teleporter as well, you break that early, then they have no escape option.
Exactly. They did end up deciding to go with the high ground teleporter here. Shen Shen trying to set up some turrets in there, get their beam up and running. Immortality Field has been invested and destroyed from Red Mudkip, so Potatoes have an Immortality Field advantage as Vidora punishes Scarboy there. Man Bro Dude finds his way to the bottom of the Gardens of Hanamura there, but Pithy right now is at full strength on that beam, and that spells danger for the Turbo Throwers as they end up fleeing back to point here, and the Baby D.Va, well, not quite.
It's a little bit of an oof decision from On a Spaceship to go. They try to go aggressive and make something happen, but the wall came up right behind their team as it happened, isolating Scarboy. When On a Spaceship can't quite peel in time, so they get split up from each other and both die around the same time. So that's a little bit of an oof for the first fight, but Turbo Throwers going with a little bit of a different TP.
Different TP setup here. They're going to get some high ground control again, raining some damage down on the Fighting Potatoes here. Mr. Mountain Mike very close to that Riptire, which could be a crucial ultimate here for the Turbo Throwers. Really interesting wall there. It ends up working out well for Scarboy, and a very good wall from Pithy as well to negate that Riptire. So well played so far by both teams trying to set up on this point. And it looks like the Potatoes just had a counter for everything so far as Vidora now pushing into the Turbo Throwers here. And the aggression comes in from the Fighting Potatoes, and it appears to be relentless. But Mr. Mountain Mike is finding some kills for the Turbo Throwers, and it looks to be even currently. And it looks like Turbo Throwers decide to throw themselves off the edge here and try to get reset.
Extremely risky play in this situation where you're running into the Junkrat. Plenty of damage to chunk into you if they're running the May as well. It's very dangerous to walk into that May wall, but they do get away with it there. Fighting Potatoes do not have... there's been no reason for them to respect Turbo Throwers so far because Turbo Throwers haven't been able to punish the play from Fighting Potatoes. It feels like Fighting Potatoes in complete control.
Fighting Potatoes are in a great spot right now. There's the Symmetra wall right now for Shen Shen, and the Blizzard now for Man Bro Dude, going to be split in half by that Symmetra wall as well. So not as impactful as it could be, but a huge Earth Shatter from Scarboy is going to open the door here for the Turbo Throwers. A counter shatter from Vidora does not find anything, and that is going to be a point take here for the Turbo Throwers. They take point A on Hanamura with just over 1 minute to go here.
Scarboy says, I'll give you a damn reason to respect me. Hits the great shatter onto both tanks, and I believe one more, which prevented the Immortality Field. Pugster not able to throw that one out. Vidora falls early, and once that happens on this point, even if you lose one player afterwards, it's still going to be super hard to make that comeback, and Turbo Throwers capitalize off of the great play from Scarboy, and switching to the Cassidy early, not opting in for the Symmetra. I like it. You're not going for something that oftentimes doesn't even work on Hanamura second, instead opting for just high ground control with the Cass.
And the high ground now being taken control of by the Turbo Throwers here as they push in with only a D.Va self-destruct here now for the Potatoes. It's going to be a tough defense here with 3 minutes on the clock. We see the Turbo Throwers now in a really good spot, especially with that Riptire from Mr. Mountain Mike. Here comes the D.Va Bomb in from Solitary Bird. Does find Red Mudkip. Huge priority target taken down by the Bird Bomb there, but Pithy takes Scarboy out as well. That's going to be Fighting Potatoes repelling the initial attack here of the Turbo Throwers.
Yeah, it's just a time to regroup, reset, reconsider. I think that the Junkrat, once the Riptire goes out, might need to be switched for something more conventional and potentially a Symmetra to combo with the Cass, or more likely, I think a May would work pretty well here. They either are going main here or down the bottom. Okay, main.
Looks like going down main here is that, but here comes the amplification matrix from Pugster, and the Riptire now for Mr. Mountain Mike heads up the cliff, goes back down now to take down Vidora. Vidora taken out, no main tank now for the Fighting Potatoes, but Solitary Bird finds Shen Shen. Big source of damage now gone for the Turbo Throwers as Man Dude takes out that Immortality Field. Scarboy right now with the critical ultimate on that Earth Shatter, but it looks like the kills are all blue right now for the Fighting Potatoes as Pithy finds a few more in this one. Pithy has been playing out of his mind right now on that Symmetra tie.
He looks to be a great player right now for Fighting Potatoes, but once you lose that first pick, like you do, I believe it was to No, Fedora got the kill. I don't remember who it was on Fighting Potatoes that got the early pick against Turbo Throwers onto Senshin, but once that pick went through, it's a lot harder to cap on 2CP second, and oftentimes I say, once you lose one on 2CP second attack, unless the entire enemy team is dead, you might as well just give it up because you're just buying time for the enemy team at that point.
Absolutely. And here now, presence on the point here with that teleport. Or I'm sorry, presence on the point. Pardon me, not teleported. But Earth Shatter's huge though from Scarboy, and it's going to put both tanks on the ground. Man, Bro Dude on the Reaper does take down Scarboy, so a small opening now for the Potatoes. But it looks like the trickle game is going to be on now, losing 2 more. Man, Bro Dude right now the only one left on the point. But here comes Shen Shen now with the big Deadeye, trying to take down some targets. Does get Solitary Bird out of mech. And here comes a Riptire from Mr. Mountain Mike, looking for some more big targets again. Has been big on those all night tonight. Finds Pithy. That's going to put down that Immortality Field as well. And Turbo Throwers racking up the percentage right now. With 55 seconds left, Sneaky Kitten has the... Oh, but a huge boop takes them off the point. They sound barriered in, try to get in, but Jacob F with a huge boop is going to negate that. That was a well-played round there by Turbo Throwers to get that big cap there. But with less than 2 minutes, or with less than a minute left to Fighting Potatoes, they got a real shot here to take this map.
It's a good play. Scary Boy puts his foot on the door, and then it's... I'm trying to look on the sheet to remember who I'm supposed to be talking about here, but it's Scarboy who does a good job putting his foot in the door with that Earth Shatter, opening it for the team. Then it's Senshin who slams the door right back shut with that High Noon, and then just a little bit of a lock there from your Junkrat to just lock the door, prevent the enemy team from coming back into there. The Tracer, a super important target on a 2CP stall to kill, because she can prevent so much from happening. And, you know, getting that kill early is good, especially with the Immortality Field as well. Both teams looking to opt for what we just saw from them a moment ago. I got it out.
We got there. That's all that matters. 54 seconds, though, on the attack for the Turbo Throwers. So as long as Potatoes can cap even an OT, we will see some extra time Overwatch right now. So we look again at Turbo Throwers. No Symmetra this time. They come out with the the Cassidy and the Junkrat, while Potatoes are going to be running that Symmetra May comp as well to get onto the point early here. Door opens for the Fighting Potatoes, staring a full cap on in the face here from the Turbo Throwers. They're going to head up to the choke here. Teleporter coming down. Where will they go? That is the big question. An interesting, aggressive play here from the Turbo Throwers as they push right in to the Fighting Potatoes, and it's going to result in Pugster being dropped there quickly. What aggression from the Turbo Throwers, taking the teleporter strategy away from the Potatoes. But the position right now that the Potatoes are in, they are in trouble here. They might want to consider resetting here real quick.
It's another small thing, but Symmetra, the 225 HP, remember that, because that's why Pithy survived the Junkrat trap alongside the Junkrat mine that normally does 200 damage. Symmetra with 225 does survive that, but another critical thing, Turbo Throwers only capped with 54 seconds. No full minute means there's no chance you take this round and then prevent them from having a second attack. If they get it in overtime, you both have a second attack to deal with.
Fighting Potatoes now in on the point here, but Mr. Mountain Mike already up to that Riptire, and he's telling everybody to get ready, start your engines. Here goes the tire, finds Pithy, big source of damage now down for the Fighting Potatoes as Fedora is dropped as well. The damage continues to pour onto the Potatoes here as the Turbo Throwers defense holds strong, and it's all Turbo Throwers all the time right now on this defense.
Yeah, it's a great little bit of a performance there from Turbo Throwers. They need to be able to keep it up, though. The Improvisation Matrix is ready from Pugster on the other side, so that's one thing to worry about if you're ult tracking it correctly. As well as the sound barrier, decently quickly done, less than 2 minutes and already at 96%. It's a very slow ult to charge sometimes. Jacob hasn't gotten one yet, so seeing Sneaky Kitten already about to have it, such a critical ult, is very, very promising.
Here we go to the high ground for the Potatoes. They have not dropped yet. Now they drop down. Man, Bro Dude leading the charge there. Amplification Matrix is up here from Pugster, and Mr. Mountain Mike follows quickly. But a huge Earth Shatter from Scarboy, who's been playing fantastic tonight, opens the door here. Scarboy, though, very low, and now taken down, and an Earth Shatter from Fedora as well for the Fighting Potatoes is going to open the door for them here, and Potatoes look like they're going to finally get this first point. Minute 40 left on the clock here as the stall is now on from the Turbo Throwers.
Yeah,
and it's like interesting self-destruct there.
Interesting's the word to say, and I think as well the fact that Sneaky Kitten managed to charge up that sound barrier so quickly. Scarboy had the potential to completely pause that attack with that Earth Shatter, even out the health bars as well as the player count, but it's Sneaky Kittens with that decently quick sound barrier that they charged to stop Turbo Throwers in their tracks and continue forward onto the objective. 4 minutes to cap second. You are feeling confident.
Absolutely, definitely a good situation here. Pithy pops the Symmetra wall here, gonna open up a nice opportunity here for the Fighting Potatoes. Here comes the Blizzard as well from Man Bro Dude, trying to work their way through that Symmetra wall is Red Mudkip. No real significant advantage gained from the Potatoes there, other than positioning advantage. Pugster taken down by the Junkrat passive, which is unfortunate for Baptiste for sure. Nonetheless, it looks like the trades are all coming in right now, but trades don't work out for the Fighting Potatoes here on attack. And it looks like the Turbo Throwers are going to slowly but surely be able to pull this off, barring a huge clutch right now from Fedora, and that's just not going to happen as Shen closes the door with that huge Deadeye.
You're going to be happy about the fact that Fighting Potatoes almost turned that. Even though you might have lost that fight, it bought you an extra 20-30 seconds potentially that you wouldn't have otherwise had. If Fighting Potatoes just fell over and flopped like a fish, then they probably would have already been back onto the objective at the moment. And considering the reset that's already been done by Turbo Throwers, then Fighting Potatoes might have had a fighting chance already, and with 3 ultimates as well. The Shatter and both support ults, that is going to be a mountain to climb for Turbo Throwers. Let's see if they can handle it.
All right, Fighting Potatoes now TPing to the high ground here. Lots of ultimates at their disposal. Sound Barrier invested early from Jacob Epp. Sound Barrier now in from Sneaky Kitten as well, but Pugster already dropped. Man Bro Dude finds Scarboy here. Mr. Mike takes down Fedora as well. Again, trades appear to be the flavor of the month here, but this isn't a trading card game. This doesn't work out for you long term if you're the Fighting Potatoes. And here comes another defender on the point. All this for naught here for the Fighting Potatoes, it looks like, as again, the slow stagger is going to work out for the Turbo Throwers.
It's like there's a little bit of a stagger in positioning for Fighting Potatoes as well. They're a little bit split off, and it's Shen on the high ground. The hero, again, takes out 2 in their dire moment where Fighting Potatoes might be able to cap, but, I mean, Turbo Throwers feel like they must feel great right now. There's only been 2 or 3 fights on second, which have bought them two whole minutes, and that's the kind of pace you want to be happening right now, especially because Beat and Slam gone, as well as the Symmetra wall from Fighting Potatoes, means that your ult disadvantage doesn't look quite as steep.
All right now Fighting Potatoes pushing back into main here. No significant ult advantage really to report. They teleport up the high ground once again. Solitary Bird went to high ground to try to impact on get some impact onto the Baptiste and the Cassidy up there, but just were not able to really get anything done. But it looks like the heals right now are coming out big from Pugster, and it looks like Pithy finds 3, Pithy finds 4, and Man Bro Dude spins to win, finds another. But here's another Deadeye from Shen. That's what, 3 Deadeyes in 3 fights? That's insane. Shen has been massive on that Cassidy so far, but the Fighting Potatoes are able to handle this one, and Fedora finds Scarboy as well. The stagger's now starting to come in here for the Turbo Throwers. Here comes the bomb, and it's walled off completely by Pithy. No remech available for on a spaceship as they're sent back to the spawn room. Mr. Mountain Mike close to another Riptire as well, and here it comes, a critical ult for the Turbo Throwers. Will it find any targets? It will not, as Sneaky Kittens takes it out of the sky with the boop there. Pugster now pops the Amplification Matrix, putting out the big heals onto that front line for the Fighting Potatoes. Still no progression, new progression on the point for the Potatoes, however. Despite this long fight, nothing really changing. Here comes Solitary Bird with the huge Diva Bomb, not finding any targets. Fedora takes down Shen, however. Scarboy now sitting on that Earth Shatter. It's a huge ultimate. Big opportunity, cannot find anything there, but Fedora is repelled back. The final push now for the Fighting Potatoes with Sneaky Kitten using that sound barrier, but Fedora is taken down. Sticky does not find target there. The fight continues to rage on this point. The Fighting Potatoes will not let go, but the Turbo Throwers are relentless on defense, and they will not give anything to the Fighting Potatoes here, and Hanamura is now in the hands of the Turbo Throwers.
It's going even at the half, folks. It's Fighting Potatoes, who were in a great lead early on there, and it turns out to be the full cap that really saves Turbo Throwers there. And even though it felt like Turbo Throwers were potentially losing out in some aspects, it's Fighting Potatoes with a great. It's a like them just doing a great job keeping their heads above water in front of the threat that Fighting Potatoes have been posing. And really, in that last fight, I knew that it was going to last for a while. And in a 2CP fight, I keep saying it, second point, if a fight's going to last a while, you might as well end it as the attackers. Because at 45, 48 seconds, I could see, all right, Fighting Potatoes are taking too long to clean this up. There's going to be a full regroup for Turbo Throwers, and they're going to get that full regroup necessary to make a second fight happen. You don't want that ever on a 2CP attack. You might as well just reset at that point, because if it's going to take that long to clear off point, you might as well just get another attempt where you wipe, you get your ultimates, you have another chance to make any counter picks that you might need at the last seconds. But the fact that that last fight goes on for almost a full minute prevents Fighting Potatoes from having a real shot to keep things going there.
Yeah, Fighting Potatoes just staggers those fights a little too long, and it never really works out well on a 2CP map. You got to get those resets in, and we just didn't see that from the Fighting Potatoes here. But we are at halftime now, Ty, sitting at 1-1 between these two teams in their battle to survive the elimination pool. We are going to go ahead and head to that 10-minute halftime here right now. Stay tuned. More Overwatch coming up here just in a few minutes. And welcome back, everybody, here to our Wednesday feature match. We're tied up at 1-1 in this round here. Tie both teams fighting again for that, for fighting to get out of that elimination pool. It's been a heck of a match so far. Both teams fighting for position to kind of pull away here on this one. Ty, it's been even though so far.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, both these teams were in a somewhat similar position last season where they were both in the elimination pool, made it out into the actual playoffs, didn't make it too far, but they still did manage to make it through. So now both of them trying to compete with each other to be able to make it through is an interesting development. And if I'm forgetting something, please correct me and call me an idiot in the chat. But as long as I didn't forget something, then that's an interesting little thing to think about. These two teams competing to see if one of them, whichever one loses, if they lose another match, they might not continue on in this tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important right now. Every single map is critical. Basically, it's like the playoffs for these teams. So they really got to clutch up. They got to come up big right now, and it hasn't. It hasn't really. It hasn't worked out so far this season. But in the end, they got 8 teams in this pool. 4 teams will qualify for the playoffs out of it. So both teams know the importance of this one, and a lot at stake right now for certain. But taking a look now at the rosters here for both teams coming to this one, looks like a couple of changes coming up here. We see Vela now in for the Fighting Potatoes, and we see for the Turbo Throwers, Mr. Toast and Girl Boss GDH now into play for Turbo Throwers as well. So a couple of changes right now for both teams here. We see now the debut as well of Vila with the Fighting Potatoes on stream here as well. So, big opportunity for both teams, making some changes coming out of halftime, but trying to get in a bit of an advantage here moving through the next round.
Yeah, very interesting to see how Vela is going to perform. I don't think that we've ever seen him, have we?
I'm sorry?
Vela, have we ever seen Vela play in Tranquility? Because that's not a name that I
Absolutely.
personally. Okay, well, it's not a name
Absolutely,
that I recognize.
They are not
Oh,
only a player, they're a Hall of Famer in Tranquility here,
yeah, that
Ty.
makes sense. Of course, I would forget somebody like that. But
Yep.
one thing that I would like to mention that I didn't quite realize until just now on the roster, it actually says Fighting Potatoes. Pugster is a DPS filling over to the flex support position. So that's one thing to consider.
Well,
If any of you were feeling like,
I think that
you're in
roster is
Pugster.
not up to date because they are
That's not up to date.
actually that they are a support player.
Well,
So yeah, so
well,
that just a misread on that roster. You can just ignore that. It's all good. But I think
um,
we're about to get ready for the next map here, and I believe are we headed to Kings next year? No, yeah, we are
we
headed
are
to Kings Row.
headed to Scrims Row. Let's go, dude. Everybody knows it. Everybody loves it. I'm sick and tired of it. That's why I stopped playing Scrims, because I'm sick of seeing this damn map every single day. But, these teams not quite sick of it yet. They decide, you know what? Let's see what we can do here. And let's be honest, we all know exactly what's going to be played. We're going to see some Reinhardt. We're going to see some May. We're going to see some Lucio. We all know what's happening.
Right, absolutely. The good situation for Fighting Potatoes here with their map pick. Picking a map that they got to feel comfortable on. You got to figure moving into Kings Row. Obviously, the Brawl favorite tends to be really common here, but really you can see a lot of different things. Sometimes you can even see that Ball Farah comp. You can see some of that 6-man. Sometimes it's Brawl is still the flavor of the month most of the time, but you can really try to run different things here successfully.
Yeah, some things are the exception, but Brawl really is just the norm here. It's what we should all expect.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you'll see some teams pull out some funky stuff, like you were saying. I think Ball is decently viable, and I think if you run it correctly, the Simba composition, which if you don't know what that is, I refuse to elaborate, is potentially something that you can find a lot of success with as long as you do it right. Most people do not do it right. I have seen one team pull it off correctly since it has been invented, and it was invented by me. So,
It's a big claim there, Ty. Big claim.
I have a clip to prove it. All right, I have the evidence.
All right. Now we got now we get this one going here. Fighting Potatoes coming out with the Sombra Brawl. It looks like Turbo Throwers bringing out the comp that they've been running pretty much the whole night successfully here, as Mr. Toast leads the charge for the Turbo Throwers. Takes a hack here from Vila. It's going to get Fighting Potatoes an opportunity for some aggression, but really good push here from the Turbo Throwers, able to hold off the majority of that despite the hack. Able to start getting some progression on the point as Sneaky Kittens will fall. It's going to get some Turbo Thrower progression now on the point, and the Turbo Throwers will push through, led by the Rocket Hammer of Mr. Toast, who is very close already to that Earth Shatter.
It's one of those small things compositionally where running the Sombra cuts down on your damage and even realistically CC to an extent by a significant margin compared to something like the Junkrat, the Doomfist, the Mei even, where Sombra is kind of the worst of all worlds where, you know, she doesn't have the same level of CC as a Mei who can freeze, who can wall, who can blizzard. Sure, her CC is great, but it's not that great. Her damage is great, but it's no Junkrat, it's no Doomfist.
Right.
Where you don't quite have the correct tool set in the situation where you need to be playing perfectly in order to make it work to the extent that you need it to work.
Absolutely. Vela gets decloaked there, so we'll have to restart everything a little bit here on the Symmetra. Here comes the Amplification Matrix from Pugster. The damage now coming up from the Fighting Potatoes as the Turbo Throwers will round the corner here using an Amplification Matrix of their own as Red Mudkip with the big flame strike is Mr. Toast, and Mr. Toast will lead the charge as the Turbo Throwers will push through the streets here and get one person on the card. 4 minutes and 49 seconds. Ty, they are on a heck of a push right now.
This is a speed run somebody called Dream, but this one I don't think has any hacks involved. It's going to be up to Fighting Potatoes to make something happen here. They do have the tools finally coming up to make it happen, but Pugster just popped that Amplification Matrix, and not having that tool, especially into a Riptire, into a Shatter, into a Bomb, is going to be really difficult. Your only advantaged tool is this High Noon, which you're popping right now.
And here comes the Deadeye from finds Mr. Toast, so big target taken down now, and a good Riptire takes down Sneaky Kittens, but the the Immortality Field will keep Pugster in it for just a brief period of time as Mr. Mountain Mike will fall, take down Pugster, but that is a great situation right now for the Turbo Throwers. Despite losing the card here, they do get the healers off their back, so they're able to mitigate some of that stagger we could have seen there for the Potatoes. The Potatoes had to invest quite a bit in order to get through that, but it looks like Potatoes are going to hold on for now with 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah, that High Noon early was so critical to find the value you need. Not only did it get a kill, it also chunked down the D.Va.
Very aggressive D.Va bomb.
Yeah.
Very aggressive.
Engage.
Very interesting little engagement there from Solitary Bird. Did not get the value they were looking for sure. Wonder if maybe they were just trying to get their healers back. It looked like their healers were a little slow to get back. But here comes the EMP now potentially from Vela. And it's big, but it's mitigated completely by Jacob F with a huge sound barrier. Amplification Matrix now with the Deadeye from Pithy. Pithy does take down Mr. Toast and D-Met Girl Boss, and that is going to give Turbo Throwers finally the opening they need. I'm sorry, Fighting Potatoes the opening they need in order to hold off here. But did anybody else see a Junkrat go up to high ground there? I think I just saw a Junkrat sneak up to high ground.
Probably. Mike has been trying to do some really creative things.
Yeah, there's that Junkrat. Yeah. There's Miss. Oh, but Solitary Bird sniffed that one out, and unfortunately, the sneaky play there for Mr. Mountain Mike is not going to happen.
So, what I think happened that last fight with that self-destruct engage from Solitary Bird, I think they were trying to EMP bomb. It was a miscall because I think they were trying to say we're going to do it in just a second, and I think they called it a little too early because they weren't in range for the EMP.
The ultimate combo from Turbo Throwers is crazy here. Red Mudkip and Pugster, Red Mudkip and Mr. Mountain Mike finish off the support line. And Vela, despite finding a kill, that's just a one Sombra against an entire Turbo Throwers team. It's just not going to happen here. And the Turbo Throwers will push through now 3 minutes and 30 seconds as we head to the Foundries of Kings Row.
If they capped just a second sooner, then I don't think Mudkip would have been there in time for this next fight. But thankfully, Mudkip does get that quick spawn, able to come back quickly. But Mike has been doing some crazy things so far and is punished multiple times, but not this time it looks. Okay.
Just sneaks out. Mr. Mountain Mike is very feast or famine, it seems like, but he's been feasting just as much as there's been a famine. But it looks like punished there. Shen also falls, and the Potatoes can get a little bit aggressive here. Fedora leading the way for the Fighting Potatoes, pushing down the Turbo Throwers, sending them back to spawn as they work their way back with a D-Mech D.Va now sitting there helpless.
Villa in their debut with Fighting Potatoes. Coming up on this next EMP, they found one earlier that found a lot of value. They found one earlier that didn't find much value. So this one is going to be the turning point, either majority big value, majority little value. So I'm going to have to see how that pulls ahead, especially because you have this EMP bomb.
It's a big EMP bomb. It's massive, and the bird bomb finds 3 with the combo with Vila, the Hall of Famer, and the Season 1 OG coming through big for that combo, and Fighting Potatoes will repel that attack.
Yeah, I mean, what else is there to say? You combo your ults well. That's what happens when you do it in a correct position and in a very sneaky angle, might I add. That Solitary Bird got it just past that corner right there that we're looking at. And the EMP caught it as well. Don't know how the Immortality didn't, though.
And there's a big bomb, finds Pithy, caught out of position. We see Immortality. Oh, what a huge Earth Shatter from Vidora! But 2 down right now for the Potatoes, and 2 more down as the entire support line falls to Mr. Mountain Mike once again with a huge Riptire, and the Turbo Throwers are rounding the final corner with that golden box of victory in sight.
The feast is back for Mountain Mike as they got that 2K with the tire. Both supports as well. Pugster no longer has the amplification matrix compared to Turbo Throwers. Both support ults. First one pops. Villa's dead.
Villa's already dead. Deadeye not finding any targets there. Mr. Toast swinging that hammer, looking to build up another Earth Shatter here quickly. The Deadeye again now mitigated, but the Fighting Potatoes are falling right now as Mr. Mountain Mike finds 3 more. Vila now in on the Tracer, trying to close out 2. Finds a second pickoff, but the point is going now towards the Turbo Throwers. You leave the point just a little too long there, and the Turbo Throwers will cap this one with 1 minute and 11 seconds left on the clock.
Turbo Throwers have been feasting on Fighting Potatoes. It seems like this is not Ireland because they love their... I guess Ireland does, but it's not Ireland in like the 1600s or wherever it was. They have plenty of potatoes to feast all over. They are doing a lot of value. Was that too much? Your face is making me think that was too much.
No.
Okay, but Turbo Throwers look indomitable at the moment, starting off the series with the losing effort on Nepal, looking to take their second map of the night. And realistically, Fighting Potatoes are on the back foot. They started off, even on the last map, I would say, it was Turbo Throwers on the back foot. They just happened to win it because they had some good back foot plays. But now, Turbo Throwers just pumping the gas. There's no brakes allowed on the Turbo Throwers train. And it's all on Fighting Potatoes to make something happen on a 6-man composition. Not something you see a lot on Kings Row.
Absolutely, that was a really well executed attack for the Turbo Throwers. Fighting Potatoes gonna have to spin this one back. They're gonna have to cap this one, and they're gonna have to do it with time remaining on the clock, as Turbo Throwers right now setting the bar here for Kings Row. But Kings Row, one of those maps. We've seen this one. I've seen this one personally go all the way to over 9-9 at points. So this is one of those maps where you can definitely see that Fighting Potatoes will come out on a 6-man composition. So bringing out a different look here, trying to maybe work a little bit more magic with the Vila on the Sombra here. Do you like this choice here, Ty?
Kings Row, I mean, I don't want to be rude, but absolutely not. 6-man on Kings Row is a very, very suboptimal composition. The Brawl can do a lot of value, but good focus fire. That's what you need on the 6-man comp. Hack the off tank, kill the main tank. But
exactly. Didn't quite work out there, unfortunately, as it looks like Pithy and Vidora fell super quick. And unfortunately, losing your tanks that quickly, it doesn't matter what else you do. It's just over.
Yeah, the main thing with a 6-man composition, the best part to play is when you have a Zenyatta on the other side. On this map, you are never going to see Zenyatta. There's no instant rush target. And without the big damage to help capitalize on a hacked Rein or Diva, you can't burst down the other tank because there's always going to be some defensive utility there.
Well, we see a good hack there from Vila opening the door. Solitary Bird trying to DM Vidora, allow Vidora some opportunities to get some damage in. And it looks like it is going to pan out for the Fighting Potatoes this time around. Good target focus as they focus on that Lucio, but Pugster is taken down by Shen Shen. No Moira heals is one big source of healing gone, but Pithy finds 2 more here, and the Turbo Throwers are slowly but surely falling away here on this point. And it looks like but a huge Earth Shatter from Mr. Toast, but an EMP counter now from Vila, and here comes a Coalescence as well. And despite that huge Earth Shatter, despite losing a few, it does look like the Fighting Potatoes will just barely get this cap off.
Throwers barely inched away from the objective at the last moment, not quite able to touch. And it's through all of that, it's fighting potatoes with just barely getting small win after small win, even including that small primal that we saw that didn't get any kills, didn't get any serious knockback, but it was just threatening enough to prevent Turbo Throwers from making anything happen. It's a lot of pressure on Pithy and Sneaky Kittens here to make some big plays happen, but Solitary Bird early!
Solitary Bird does not find a target there. Shen Shen does get one with that Deadeye, however, so the Turbo Throwers are going to continue to hold here at the archway, and it's a tough spot right now if you're a potato fan. You got to try to find a way to bust through that choke.
Yeah, Fighting Potatoes are looking mashed at the moment. Turbo Throwers, a lot of firepower being thrusted upon them, and with the Blizzard and Beat, even though Fighting Potatoes do have more ultimates this time, it's looking a little rough.
When we see the this Death Blossom now from Pithy, it does open up an opportunity for the Fighting Potatoes to push in. That's the power of the six-man composition. Once it gets one kill, it can start to really rack those kills up quickly, and Vidora runs the way through the Turbo Throwers here, and now the Fighting Potatoes have the momentum working their way through the streets.
I've been casting Tranquility for well over a year now, and I'm pretty sure there's only been one time in which I called that an ult exchange is going to happen in a specific way, and it actually does, especially in Harmony. It's so unpredictable it's going to be happening here because the Blizzard and Beat haven't been used yet.
There goes the self-destruct. Does not find any target here. There's the Blizzard, though, and it's a big one, but it's going to be negated by the sound barrier from Sneaky Kitten. And the EMP from Vila finds 3, including Jacob F, who's holding on to that sound barrier, is being taken very low and dropped now. And the six-man composition continues to pan out for the Fighting Potatoes here as their aggression continues to punish the Turbo Throwers.
And it's third point as well, where, in my opinion, the comp can find the most success, and they're still going! There's no brakes on the Turbo Thrower train!
All right, and a Deadeye now from Shen Shen looking for some targets to kill. Not taking out anything, but the aggression is crazy as Vidora all the way to the spawn door right now with that Primal Rage. Takes down Shen Shen. Vidora's Winston is going crazy right now, Ty.
Way to stop this team right now, it feels. And I said Turbo Thrower Train, I was mistaken. It's the Fighting Potato Plow that I should be talking about, but they did use a lot of ultimates just then. The Beat, the Cole, and the Primal gone. The Shatter is big!
It's huge. It's a massive Earth Shatter there. Mr. Toast takes down Sneaky Kitten, and the sound barrier now from Jacob F, along with the Amplification Matrix. Turbo Thrower is just desperately trying to stem the bleeding right now. But it does look like Girl Boss is going to get demeched, and that's actually a pretty significant problem. They should probably go jump off the edge. Let's see if they actually do that. But Turbo Throwers right now are finally getting a bit of a foothold here on defense, but they had to use everything to get there, Ty.
Yeah, and with the demech from Girl Boss, it's in a situation where you have an open wound and you put a band-aid over it because this EMP is desynced now from the sound barrier. The moment Villa gets it up, they can pop it at any point that they have a decent, equal fight. And Big Blossom as well!
A big Death Blossom there from Pithy. He's kind of created an opening for Vidora. And Pugster is taken down. Again, losing that Moira can be big. We see a tire attempted to be used for Mr. Mountain Mike, but it doesn't get anywhere. And here comes the Fighting Potatoes, looking like they're going to close this one out. This self-destruct now in from Solitary Bird to try to close it out. It does not. The hack now in onto Mr. Toast. And Shen, unfortunately, that's not where the Fighting Potatoes are. And another EMP from Vila, but does not find any target besides Red Mudkip. Girl Boss is demeched as well as Vidora, again with another Primal. Vidora's been getting these Primals like crazy here, Ty. It's the six-man. I know we criticized it at first, but it appears to be working really well.
Well, we call these the Fighting Potatoes, but it's looking like the Primal Potatoes with how Vidora's performing, and they are proving me wrong as well, like you said, with pulling out the six-man composition, the suboptimal composition in my eyes, where the composition on King's Row, it just shouldn't work in theory because the Reinhardt composition is the ideal counter comp. You just play Rein, hit the enemy team with a hammer, it go bonk, don't get hacked because the D.Va can shoot one side, the Reinhardt can shield the other. And in theory, you should beat that comp 7 times a Sunday, but it's Fighting Potatoes plowing through the Turbo Throwers.
And then the Fighting Potatoes looked fantastic there on that 6-man composition. Sometimes when you mix it up and do something different, it just works. And it looked like it worked out pretty well there for the Fighting Potatoes. But Turbo Throwers will have an opportunity here. They got about a minute on the clock. And Fighting Potatoes, I think they ended with what, about minute 50, I believe? So
Something of the sort.
roughly equivalent pools for both teams here. Oftentimes comes down to that first defense here to really kind of set the tone. But I believe the Turbo Throwers will be on attack here first.
Yeah, and especially the second attack is where the first point really matters. If you can get it early, then you can get a very big steamroll all the way to the beginning of third without having a chance of being stopped sometimes. And in the first attack, sure, you can be stumped up for about 3 minutes, but eventually you'll cap it. But look at these time banks. Nobody has 3 minutes to spare.
Nobody had, I mean, there's not a lot of time to spare here for either team. This kind of, again, it comes down to that first defense. Who comes up big? Who makes the plays you need to make? Fighting Potatoes, again, with this Sombra composition, with the brawl style. Turbo Throwers with the Junkrat and the Reaper. So big damage from the Turbo Throwers, a little bit more utility for the Potatoes. And Vila is dropped early and a huge kill early on as they also lose their immortality field. Mr. Toast brought very low, but is going to be able to be kept up. Potatoes with a bit of a soft reset here. It looks like they are setting up for another potential retake. Trap now set up just outside of point as Vidora pushes back in, gets trapped, and Pithy gets caught out as well. Vidora tries to get on the point and cannot, and the Turbo Throwers look like they're going to get a very successful first attack here.
A little bit of time bot is good here because the next time you attack, it's probably going to be overtime for Turbo Throwers. That first and second fight were super critical. Even though you lost them both quick, you still had both, which means that coming up here with the pick of Jacob as well, there's no time added, remember, for capping first in a hybrid. So with the kill onto the Lucio, you have a chance to come back here strong.
Definitely. Good opportunity now for the Fighting Potatoes to push back in. But here comes now the Turbo Throwers on the attack, 4 on the cart. And here comes the Amplification Matrix in now. Flame Strike goes through, is eaten up by Girl Boss. Deadeye now from Pithy zoning away the Turbo Throwers. And a big Earth Shatter from Vidora is going to open the door here for the Potatoes. But Mr. Mountain Mike takes down Vila. So that is going to create a bit of a fracas here on the point, Ty. As Solitary Bird goes down, target focus is lacking right now for both teams. No targets really threatened. The sound barrier now for Sneaky Kitten as Vidora takes down Girl Boss. And right now, Solitary Bird demeched as well, looking to try to build back up to that mech. And a huge Earth Shatter from Mr. Toast is going to create a big opportunity for the Turbo Throwers as they push through the streets of Kings Row and send the Potatoes fighting their way back to the spawn room.
Play because Mr. Toast kept them alive in this map, and I have to mention Vila hasn't found much value on the Sombra. It's super important to get this EMP up quick, and it's been about 2 minutes. Now they've charged the EMP. This is an opportunity to stop them before third, which is something you very, very rarely see. Second point doesn't stop payloads much.
An EMP now from Vila, but however, it's going to be countered out by the Riptire here for Mr. Mountain Mike, which sends the Potatoes panicking. Pithy does take down the Riptire as well. Self-destruct now from Girl Boss takes down Solitary Bird, and Bird's Bomb does not find anything as Pithy now on the point trying to find a way to repel the Turbo Throwers here, but they cannot. It looks like Sneaky Kitten taken down here by Mr. Toast, and there goes Pithy as well. And all best laid plans for the Fighting Potatoes are unfortunately falling apart as the relentless attack of the Turbo Throwers cannot be stopped.
Yeah, chugga 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 choo choo. We're back onto the Turbo Throwers train of terror, and I have to mention again, Vela finding not nearly as much value as what you would want from your Sombra. Former all-star player, but right now it's a weakness for the Potatoes that Turbo Throwers are taking advantage of.
Pithy though, however, finds Shen taking out a couple and a big Earth Shatter from Mr. Toast once again, and the Fighting Potatoes are all extremely low once again off the backs of Mr. Toast, and big heals from Red Mudkip is just keeping their team alive. It's been a crazy fight, but every single time these little stalemates go on, Mr. Toast has been breaking them open.
It's all Toasty in the kill feed right now. I mean, I say that, but Jacob did just get a kill on the Lucio. Both sound barriers are here, and Sneaky Kittens invest theirs. Self-destruct as well from Girl Boss to try and split them up, but right now, it's still just a stalemate.
And Mr. Toast is taken down finally on the backside EMP, and Shen unable to get that Deadeye off here as the Cassidy falls. And finally, the Fighting Potatoes look like they will be able to stop the Turbo Throwers here. Riptire not in time to do anything, and that is going to be it.
That's still a very large distance that you can cap onto third point of Kings Row with only a minute 15 they started with, I believe. So that's a great push, and realistically, it's been a great effort from Sneaky Kitten, Fedora, and Pithy. All right, I got it.
There we go. We got there.
Pithy, Sneaky Kitten, and Fedora have been doing an exceptional job. Right now, though, it's feeling like the Sombra pick is holding them back just a little bit. I want to see a Mei. I want to see a Junkrat, Doomfist, something else other than the Sombra. You can run the 6-man again because it did work, but I think something other than the Sombra, if you do run the Brawl, is probably your most optimal decision. Even if he's not as comfortable on it, switching Vila to something else might be the most optimal pick for the team, but Senshin opting to mirror it.
Shen now bringing out the Sombra. Sombra is one of those characters, especially in these overtime situations. One EMP can just absolutely win a match for you. So this is now all we're looking at here is that EMP for Shen being a potentially big opportunity here. So watching right now to see what exactly happens, but I have to say, if you're Fighting Potatoes, you kind of need a bit of a miracle right now, but we just saw Turbo Throwers do it, so it's not outside the realm of possibility.
Absolutely, and at this point, it's no chance that, I mean, both Sombras just cross paths right next to each other, but, oh, it's a complete comp swap! This is exactly the kind of thing that I was hoping. Not quite Vela switching, but the Sombra can definitely work here. It's a little bit better than Tracer since you can get around easier, but the Pharmercy is something that you can just use to pound the enemy backline.
Absolutely. Pharmercy for Pithy is seemingly going to do a lot of work here, especially now. I mean, perfectly timed when you think about it, because Shen is now off that Cassidy as well. But Fedora taken down here by Mr. Mountain Mike, as Pithy unfortunately taken out of the sky as well with that hack, and now dropped by Shen as well. So unfortunately, despite the compositional advantage, it hasn't worked out for the Fighting Potatoes on the first attack.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slow burn to get through this, but I mean, at this point, you're starting to wonder if you would have been better off just playing the 6-man, playing it out, trying to make it work, but Pithy committing to the Pharah. Sneaky Kitten, 77% to the Valk, and Pugster with a Nano Boost available. Fedora can be a big thorn in your side, and Red Mudkip, if a hack goes off, it's on to Mr. Toast. He's already low.
And that's a big hack right now as Fedora comes in. EMP now in, but the damage might already be done as Fedora is putting a ton of pressure right now onto the Turbo Throwers, but a huge Earth Shatter from Mr. Toast creates an opening now for the Turbo Throwers. The kills are continuing to trade out here, but the damage from up on high from Pithy appears to be a huge problem. The EMP now in as Pithy goes in with the barrage, takes out two, and it is going to look like finally the Fighting Potatoes are going to be able to get this card pushing, but it's going to be all overtime from here. They cannot lose another fight.
Barrage and EMP and a little nano on the side. That's what it takes to cap first point sometimes, and at this point, I mean, they're trying to stall it out, but
I don't know if overtime. It's overtime, which means overtime spawns are now a factor here for the Turbo Throwers. So all of this, it seems well intended, but in reality, it can really hurt your chances if you're continuing to force these fights. And all you're doing is building up ultimates for the Fighting Potatoes right now.
Sneaky Kitten and Pithy would be at 10-20% right now. Sneaky Kitten at 54, Pithy at 68, 74 now. Just already going to have another barrage. You just dealt with one. So staggering onto the objective like that, sure, you might have a little bit of a better chance with getting some ultimates before third, but right now it's looking like if Fighting Potatoes play their cards right, they steamroll all the way to the end.
Right. Right now, Pithy is trying to push through with that big damage from on high. It's worth noting they're almost on their way to another barrage, and that could be a big ultimate here if that Diva Eat is not in play from Girl Boss. The hack onto Mr. Toast right now, but he's saved by the Immortality Field. But Jacob F is down. Self-destruct from Solitary Bird will find the other healer now. No healers for the Turbo Throwers as the pressure continues right now from Pithy and Vila, as well as Vidora. It's been a very good attack so far for the Fighting Potatoes. There's still a long way to go for victory, but it's a good start. But there's one big ultimate right now sitting on that Turbo Thrower side, and if you're Turbo Throwers, you got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you say it's a long way, but the gap is closing as time speaks. It's only around that second bend, and Valkyrie used. You do have
Mr. Mountain Mike goes down again.
Yeah, Vela with the early pick and Pugster on the back. It's a lot more self-sustained for your team, but Pithy is the one making things happen.
Pithy making huge plays from the sky here right now on this Pharah. Pithy has been performing at an all-star level all night tonight, and we're continuing to see that here right now as they come up huge on this Pharah after playing so well in hit scans tonight. Switches over to the Pharmercy, and it's been incredibly effective.
Yeah, this is what we call a hyperflex, lads. I did not expect to see this kind of performance come from a forward hit scan player. Mr. Mike, he gets the Sombra. Vela down. No EMP available. Senshin now in the lead there.
No EMP, a big opportunity now for Shen Shen. And here comes the Riptide for Mr. Mountain Mike and the EMP on top of it. Not a whole lot here for the Potatoes, and Vidora and Pugster will fall. Pugster's, we have an EMP available for Vila, but it's probably not going to get there in time. EMP now invested. Only Solitary Bird and Vila on the point. It's just not enough, and the patience eventually works out for the Turbo Throwers, who will take Kings Row and go up 2-1 in this matchup.
Tiny little bit of overestimation of your own capabilities that don't make you think of those small little things that might happen. Mr. Mountain Mike, on that slight little off angle, came up into that room before we saw Vela even get in there. And Mr. Mountain Mike, he's had Vela's number all night. Vela has not been able to make any plays happen so far because of Mike just doing everything and anything to stop the Sombra.
That feast and famine strategy, or feast or famine strategy, can work out really well. But it is in this situation here for the Fighting Potatoes, it worked out very poorly for them as Mr. Mountain Mike was feasting quite a bit on that Junkrat here on this map. Now facing a 2-1 deficit, going to map 4, that is Escort. If you're Fighting Potatoes right now, you got to look for something different, something to change it up. But we did see that 6-man ran really well, and 6-man tends to be a composition that loves to be played on these Escort maps.
Particularly, I don't know if it's in the pool, but Route 66 is probably one of the better 6-man composition maps. You don't want to be going to something like Gibraltar. I don't think you want to see any amount of Dorado either. 6-man can really struggle there, so I think you're looking right into the eyes of Route 66, the American homeland. Basically, the capital of America in Overwatch is Route 66.
Well, the maps available are Dorado, Junkertown, and Route 66. Really, all of those maps play well with 6-man, if we're being real here.
You say that, but first point in Junkertown with the double sniper on the defense, it can be a massive struggle to get through that massive open area with the 6-man. It's such a hard choke to get through, and it's not even a choke.
It absolutely can. We'll see what happens here. I'm not sure what Fighting Potatoes are going to pick, but the pressure is on them. Like we said, Potatoes now down 2-1 as we sit and stare at Kings Row at the scoreboard here. And it looks like we are going to head now to Junkertown on the Potatoes choice here. Ty, you didn't see this coming, but here we are.
It can definitely work, though. If it seems like the Brawl has been the weakest thing for Fighting Potatoes, so Route 66, or not Route 66, but Junkertown, it definitely falls into that camp where you can run, for example, you can run the double shield, you can run the hog comp. I call it the scrap comp because I think it's funny. There's a lot of things you can run here that aren't Brawl, and there's a lot of interesting things that you can decide to. Double sniper, if you have a lot of trust into your DPS players, it can definitely work out.
Definitely, absolutely. So we could see a double sniper comp here coming out on defense. Could see that 6-man, could be double shield. Lots of different varieties you can run on this kind of map here, Ty. But, here we go. It's now the pressure's on for the Fighting Potatoes to try to push this to a map 5 for the Turbo Throwers. Question is, can you close it out right now? That's the big question going into this map here for both teams. But nonetheless, Fighting Potatoes picking Junkertown here. with Pivy, it's been worth noting Pivy has been really strong tonight on Hit Scan Heroes, but it looks like Pithy's not even in this map as Man Bro Dude steps back in on the Hanzo, and we see Shen right now sitting on that Widowmaker with Mr. Mountain Mike on the Echo, as it looks like Turbo Throwers are going to be going with kind of an interesting little divey comp here, while Fighting Potatoes will be running the double shield on defense with that Tracer and Hanzo for the Potatoes. So different looks from both teams that we haven't seen really at all tonight. So it comes down to this for both teams as Turbo Thrower is up 2-1 and the door is open to Junkertown here. And the Fighting Turbo Thrower is now pushing to that high ground, scouting out that composition. And here goes the initial dive in from Mr. Toast onto the tank line here. A huge biotic grenade from Red Mudkip is going to be completely negated by the immortality field from Pugster, but Fedora does eventually fall. Fighting Potatoes will look to reset here as the Turbo Throwers will get the early push and get through this first little choke point.
Immortality isn't a cleanse, though, so the Biotic Grenade doesn't find as much value as it might otherwise, but it does find a lot of value still. And the Hanzo, such an important pick here to burst down these tanks, and with the Tracer as well, you can prevent them from making plays.
Shen with a huge pickoff onto Vila, and Vila not able to get the damage onto Shen here with the huge pickoff. Those close-range Tracer shots are insane, as Shen now will be able to free shoot really without really any harassment right now. Looking for those supports, but cannot find them. Did just eat an arrow. It looks like for Man Bro Dude is now kind of been locked in a bit of a pseudo sniper duel with Man Bro Dude, but working right now, Shen is going to be taking down Vila with a little bit of vengeance. As Vila right now on the Tracer, looking at this Diva now as well. Vila, again, the new pickup for the Fighting Potatoes, the Tranquility Hall of Famer, finds a second kill there as well. And Vila's Tracer has been a menace so far this season based on the early maps. A lot of people have been mentioning that Vila's Tracer is an absolute powerhouse here in the Harmony tier. But they're going to need a lot of big performance right now from that Tracer in order to get what they're hoping to get here. And the Nano comes in, not onto the Monkey, but instead onto Mr. Mountain Mike, who gets a lot of damage onto Solitary Bird and finishes them off. Man Bro Dude now locked in a duel with an Echo. That's a tough duel for any Hanzo, and they will drop here. Vila had that Pulse Bomb, but the kills are all Turbo Throwers all the time right now. And Vila, unfortunately, barring an insane pickoff here, is not going to be able to counter this out, and it will be the Turbo Throwers pushing through point A.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision to nano the Echo. Normally you would see that onto the Winston, as you said, but it does end up working. You take out Solitary Bird early, the Sigma gone, so Kinetic Grasp and Accretion gone critically, and these guys are so aggressive, the train never stops!
Absolutely, the aggression is off the charts. Good. Jacob F, though, taken down from a Pulse Bomb, but Shen gets 2 and make that 3 now for the Turbo Throwers as they continue to push down. The Fighting Potatoes has not been working out well as Vila gets spotted out and dropped by Mr. Toast there. Great sleep dart from Red Mudkip, who's had a huge impact early on here. Potatoes with some ultimates to come back, but Turbo Thrower's ult bank is massive right now, Ty.
Yeah, it's just, you don't quite have the golden row, the 6 check marks, but oh my goodness, they come out of the right door. They get the eyes and they get the ears, the flux to bring them up into the air after the Pulse Bomb. It's good.
It's a huge self-destruct there. Pulse Bomb not finding any targets, and that, I mean, I'm sorry, Pulse Bomb for Vila not finding any targets there. Mr. Mountain Mike has just been so impactful early on here on this Echo. And the Turbo Throwers are just moving, like I said, I've said it before, I'm saying it again, they're moving at warp speed right now through this first choke. If you're the Fighting Potatoes, you need to make a change, and it looks like they are.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the brawl, but it can definitely work out in your own favor. It's been a good switch from Senshin recognizing the Widowmaker wasn't working, going over to the Tracer. It's just, that's been the least important part, it feels like, because of the performance we've seen from Red Mudkip, Mr. Toast, and especially Mike. Mr. Mountain Mike has been a nuisance to Fighting Potatoes and the aggressive engagements. Whoever's your shot caller for Turbo Thrower should feel proud at the moment.
Absolutely, they're doing a fantastic job here. Turbo Throwers pushing onto the high ground here. Shen on this, pardon me. Shen right now on this Tracer has been doing fantastic, going toe-to-toe with Vila all night. And just another Pulse Bomb here. Shen is showing up in a massive way for the Turbo Throwers, but it's absolutely been a complete team differential as every player on the Turbo Throwers is leading this 6-man on just an insane push right now.
Rain never stops and turbo throwers don't either. It's been an unstoppable performance, switching back to the Reinhardt for Fedora to try and just make something happen. You need the survivability, you need this Coalescence up soon, and the Primal Rage, it's already chunked half.
And it's Deadeye is now put in by Manbrodude. Did not find any targets there. Mr. Toast, though, very low. But here comes Pugster now with the Coalescence. An opportunity now for the Fighting Potatoes to stem the bleeding a little bit here. Rally now from Jacob F to try to get the Turbo Throwers through this Coalescence. Self-destruct from Girl Boss, not finding any targets. And the Turbo Throwers will finally be repelled here. And the Fighting Potatoes, this is the first fight win on the map. They desperately needed that one, Ty.
Yeah, backs against the wall. The Brawl comp gives it their all at that kind of moment. The Coalescence has nothing to look to but forward. There's nothing to worry about except for what's ahead of you, and that's where the Brawl comp succeeds the most. Turbo Throwers, if they don't make something work soon with this copy, Ascension falls.
That's a big pick off there from Manbrodude and the Fighting Potatoes, trying to hold off the Turbo Throwers right now. So far, has been a all Turbo Throwers type of map. Mr. Mountain Mike very, very low on this on this D.Va clone, not able to build up that bomb. Manbrodude very low on the high ground, but huge Solitary Bird with the bird bomb finds 3, and that is gonna clear out the riffraff, and the Potatoes will continue to hold on here. 2 minutes on the clock, Ty.
Yeah, and they're going to do the correct decision, switching over to the Brawl. Keep your Brig, keep your Ana. You got those support ults coming up very soon. Okay, never mind. You're giving up the Rally. That's something that you might not necessarily need into the high damage comp, the high burst comp of a Reinhardt and Casp. So, not a terrible decision. It's just going to be a little bit of time to build up these ults.
Here we go now. Next fight for the Potatoes. Manbrodude using his ultimate there is going to get the D.Va out of mech. Looking to finish off the baby D.Va, but cannot. Fedora now very low. Uses the Earth Shatter very effectively, but is going to be taken down. Despite having a few players low, the Turbo Throwers are going to continue to push through. Sneaky Kittens, however, does take down Mr. Mountain Mike before they go down. And the trades right now are coming out, but the trades, again, slowly will favor the defense. As Vila now has this Death Blossom here, Ty, and that's a big ultimate. Solitary Bird is taken down on the point. Manbrodude getting close to that Deadeye as well. Turbo Throwers taking a little bit of a reset time, but they pay the price, staying their welcome just a little too long as Mr. Toast is dropping. Manbrodude leads the way for the Fighting Potatoes here, taking down the main tank.
Sorry, I was just trying to understand exactly what happened.
I'm not sure either.
I didn't see quite who died from Turbo Throwers to make them decide the reset was necessary, but they do come in here. They finally have built up some of these ultimates. Ready Mudkip committing onto the Ana further. Jacob falls again, Manbrodude. Takes down the frog. No longer a factor.
No longer a factor is Manbrodude here. Big bomb over the top from Girl Boss, not finding any targets except for a mech of Solitary Bird. Vila pops his own. Oh my god, there's so many ultimates. I'm having trouble keeping up right now. And it's just all Turbo Throwers in the kill feed, though. Manbrodude comes out, pops the Deadeye, not able to find any targets as the full pull looks to be coming through here now. And the Turbo Throwers get the full complete cap on Junkertown.
Yeah, it took them a second to get their act back together, but by the end of that round, Turbo Throwers managed to get themselves back together and finally cap onto third. And coming out here, they didn't really play anything conventional that whole time. They started off onto that dive composition, which is something you very rarely ever see on Junkertown, because it can be countered in such a very simple yet specific way. I'm not going to spoil for you guys, so you guys have to figure that out yourselves. But I mean, Turbo Throwers played that dive to a great degree, and then once it started to falter a little bit, it's great play towards the end, but it looks like we're going to have a pause for a moment.
Yeah, looks like we have a bit of a technical issue that we are working through right now. And it looks like we're going to get a pause in the lobby as we're working through that. So sorry for the delay here, guys. As we work through that, I think we're going to take just a quick short break here while we get the feed back up and running. If we could please, we'll hold off here, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Welcome back, everybody. Technical difficulty solved. Though my English skills are still lacking, it appears here, Ty. But we'll finally be coming back here. Turbo Throwers after that full cap here on Junkertown, up 2-1 in prime position here, Ty, to close out the match. Fighting Potatoes looking to rally here are going to need to come up big on this attack here.
Yeah, for us, it's technical difficulties. For you, it seems technically difficult, but for the game, it seems like Turbo Throwers, no difficulty whatsoever. I mean, they did have a little bit of difficulty by the end, but Fighting Potatoes, that was mostly them having a really good performance to finally stop them from making the big plays happen. But on the defense, they're playing the zombie comp. I need you to talk because if I say anything, it's going to be probably against TOS.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Right now, Fighting Potatoes on the attack here. They're coming out on the double shield composition with the Hanzo Tracer. Turbo Throwers, again, running the same composition they ran on attack. It's the same thing, just kind of reverse everything now. Fedora eats a hack here from Ascension. We see already Immortality Field invested by Pugster as well. Very early Immortality Field. This compositional difference here is very interesting to me, Ty.
Yeah, it's not something that, in my opinion, should be finding very much value because it was a sort of a circumstantial success, but, I mean, oh, that was Ascension almost falling, but looks like they're going to be good for now, picking up that Mega Health pack.
Girl Boss does get demaxed, and already a really early Dragon Strike here from Man Bro Dude. Not going to find any targets, unfortunately, but a lot of damage obviously coming out from Man Bro Dude, and Vila does get the advantage on Shen Shen this time as they continue the attack here. We see Mr. Toast go down as well as the attack continues now as the Potatoes try to push through here on this double shield composition, and they have now the advantage as they move to the open space here on Junkertown's first point.
In play, Turbo Throwers are being hard countered by the Fighting Potatoes composition. The Tracer and Brig can completely stop any value that the Winston Sombra Echo comp might want to find, and there's a perfect example. Before even touching the ground, Toast falls.
And Man Bro Dude does take down Mr. Toast. The Pulse Bomb not finding anything there for Vela. But we see the Bongos now followed by the Dragon Strike from Man Bro Dude. Man Bro Dude on the Hanzo. 2 Dragon Strikes in about 2 minutes. That pace is kind of incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, that's not something you see every day from your Hanzos, and it feels like Turbo Throwers have had enough of dealing with that Hanzo, switching over probably to their own variant of the double shield. Currently, with 2 different shields than you might expect when hearing double shield, a bubble and a barrier. But you know, eventually, I think Mr. Toast is going to switch. There we go.
And there's the switch over to the double shield composition now for Turbo Throwers. Just a very different look, very similar compositions now from both teams. Jacob F, though, staying on the Lucio for just a brief period of time for that sound barrier. Both teams now, or we see Pugster popping that first ultimate. It's going to be mitigated out immediately by the sound barrier. But 2 ultimates left in hand right now for the Fighting Potatoes. We see a big Hulk put the Turbo Throwers all together. The lift from Solitary Bird is going to put a couple people into the air. Not killed just yet, but there goes Mr. Toast. Man Bro Dude is taken down by Shen Shen. That's a big kill, losing one of their main sources of damage right now. But Vila is trying to step up to be the main source of damage on this one. Pulse Bomb now in play for Vila, looking for an opportunity to get that stick on, but it looks like they're going to hold on to it here. Shen Shen trying to spin it back around, looking to kill that Brigitte, not able to get anything done. Stun out there from Sneaky Kitten is going to give Solitary Bird the leg up they needed. And Ty, I do believe they had pretty much the exact same time left on the clock here between the 2 teams. So Potatoes answering the bell here really nicely.
Yeah, I mean, it's about 3 seconds of a difference, but I mean, going to be a little bit more of a 3 seconds that we have to wait for this pause coming up, probably. Unfortunately, but Girl Boss opts for the Diva, a little bit sick of the Sigma potentially, and a Zenyatta in the backline as well. Diva to help heal for the Zenyatta, prevent too much Tracer trickery from going on back there, but an interesting development from Turbo Throwers.
Yeah, absolutely. Turbo Throwers making some changes here, trying to kind of change things up and get this one back kind of going well for them. It looks like I'm sorry, did they say they were coming back? No, not quite yet. Not quite yet. Not quite yet. So it looks like still working through that right now. But we will see how the rest of this goes here as time goes on. Not really sure what's happening right now as all right, but it looks like both teams still trying to work through the I'm sorry. Fighting Potatoes still trying to work their way to the point here, Ty. You know, you got to give credit to them. They came through really regretting that kind of soft defense there. Unfortunately, you got to figure at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the defense by the time it hit third was definitely not very soft. So you're feeling a little bit comfortable if you want, if not if you want to, but if you can find a way to cap onto the third point very quickly without having too much resistance on the other end, then you might be able to make something happen.
Absolutely. And we're back in play right now. Unclear what the pause was related to. Sticky bomb in. It is going to be mitigated out here by that immortality field. Both teams now lacking immortality field, but a lot of people very low right now for both teams. But Man Bro Dude is going to come out ahead in the duel with Shen Shen. Dynamite in, but Man Bro Dude finds another pickoff. Man Bro Dude's Hanzo is going absolutely insane. There's 3 for Man Bro Dude. Man Bro Dude looks to D-back the Diva here. He's got another ultimate. Why not just throw the Dragon Strike at this point? You got to figure it's coming pretty quick. And there it goes again. There goes the Dragon Strike, and Man Bro Dude is taking control of Junkertown right now for the Fighting Potatoes. And that's 4 for Man Bro Dude on that push. And now the Potatoes are staring down that golden box here. They have 3 minutes 40 seconds on the clock. Tie. They need to get on the point.
It's beautiful what Man Bro Dude is pulling out of the Hanzo right now. I haven't seen a Hanzo performance this glorious in my life. Not since Prophet in the 2018 playoffs have I seen somebody perform this well. But Senshin trying to even things out just a little bit.
Shen Shen right there with a big pickoff, and that actually is going to be tough right now for the Potatoes. They did have huge ultimates staring them in the face with both bongos and amplification matrix being played out. Solitary Bird stuck on an island there on the high ground, looking to get out of the fray there. Mr. Mountain Mike sending them off with a mine. Just mine for your thoughts.
It's a nice little bit of a performance from Girl Boss, actually, who finds 2 to help stop the momentum from Fighting Potatoes. And it's Man Bro Dude! Are you serious?
I can't believe this. Man Bro Dude is out of his freaking mind right now, guys. This Hanzo has been unbelievable on this map so far. But they're finally realizing maybe we should hold that shield up a little bit.
I mean, sometimes when there's a storm of arrows as if you're holding Helm's Deep, it might be the best option to just put a little shield into your own face. And this pulse bomb, the pulse bomb is not even as big of a threat. It's just Man Bro Dude, his presence alone.
Man Bro Dude is taking off Lucio, giving a bit of a Hanzo check there. We see a big lift there after a halt from Vidora. Great combination from the tanks of the Fighting Potatoes there, working very well with their coordination. And Man Bro Dude right now with those arrows looking to close it out. We see Sound Barrier now from Jacob F. Only a couple people getting any benefit from that as the window continues to move along with the cart in towards point. And Fighting Potatoes, they needed a big full cap, and boy, did they ever get one. They have 2 minutes and 58 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, if Turbo Throwers ever had a moment where they started to sweat a little bit more, it's now, because they have 60 seconds to cap as far as they possibly can, and Potatoes are just there to match it. They're not trying to beat it. They're not trying to cap all the way. They're just trying to match at this point moving forward. And with how they've been playing so far and how one particular DPS player has been playing so far, it's not going to be too hard. First point of Junkertown is the easiest, in my opinion, to fully, have a Hanzo take over on. And second point and third point, no such as either. But the first point, Man Bro Dude can just do whatever he wants. And Fighting Potatoes shown a love for the Brawl comp. So if they want to, they can definitely spawn camp and buy as much of the 60 seconds as they want.
Absolutely. Good work there from the Fighting Potatoes to come up big there. And right now we're going to go into overtime pushing. We saw this on Kings Row, but we saw the Turbo Throwers come out ahead in a similar position. They were down on time bank going into OT. They still managed to get a huge push. The question is can they pull this off again? They're running that same composition they ran the first time around. The question is, have the Fighting Potatoes learned anything? And it looks like we are seeing a small compositional difference. Rather than the Hanzo, they bring out the Soldier 76, likely expecting that Echo again. Do you like that change?
I think that it's somewhat interesting to look at. and I think that it can find a lot of value. Again, just immediately kill the Sigma, second attack in a row.
Exact same attack, exact same as last time. Solitary Bird dropped immediately, and Turbo Throwers will get a very, very good little uncontested push here, just immediately getting around the corner here on Junkertown first point.
Yeah, and what is this? An aggressive dive from Mr. Toast to get towards the backline. Brig bashed up, takes a fair bit of damage to the pole. Doesn't quite take out the Winston, but a development here I didn't realize. You might have mentioned it, I might have ignored it. A Soldier 76.
Yes, Soldier 76 was the opening pick here for Man Bro Dude instead of that Hanzo, and it's paid off so far, but it is worth noting right now, looking at the ultimate situation for the Turbo Throwers, Red Mudkip is very close to that Nano Boost, but we're now hitting the overtime as the overtime wick burns, and we see the D-Mech onto Girl Boss. Red Mudkip very close. It will not get that Nano Boost as they're picked off by Solitary Bird, and there is the attack visor from Man Bro Dude, and the Fighting Potatoes, an exact opposite of the King's Road defense. Absolutely dominant here. They got 3 minutes to push to that first corner here on Junkertown.
I mean, the first ultimate in the game is from the Soldier 76. That is not something you see every day. And
not with Tracers on the field.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Not with Tracers on the field, not with Ana's on the field.
Widowmaker,
Widowmaker.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of heroes who can farm their ultimates up very quickly. Seeing the legs is the one to get it first is honestly just extremely impressive. Coming into this next round, we're going to try and see if Turbo Throwers are going to be able to shut out the series and bring us to our series. Not, but map and take us to a map 5, or Fighting Potatoes can finally, or no, I got that backwards. If Fighting Potatoes can take us to a map 5, or Turbo Throwers are going to shut them out and win 3-1.
But Turbo Throwers have a big opportunity on defense here. We'll see what they pull out. It looks like they're going to go with that double shield composition. Mr. Mountain Mike on the Hanzo. And we go to the Fighting Potatoes on this one. They're going the double shield, but they're bringing out a different look again. Man Bro Dude showing some flexibility on the Pharah. So we're going to see a Far Mercy in play for the Fighting Potatoes here. What do you think of this change? Do you think it's a good choice here, or do you think they're maybe thinking, you know, they haven't really been showing a lot of hit scan prowess here with that Widowmaker, so maybe we try something, pull out that well, here we go. They were lying. They were lying to me the whole time, Ty.
I like the Hanzo more. If they stuck on the pharmacy, I definitely wouldn't be able to stick my opinion out there because it would 100% be out of TOS. But
no,
I mean,
that would. You can't argue with the Hanzo for Man Bro Dude tonight because it's been outstanding.
I can definitely argue with the Pharah.
Yes, I agree with you on that. But here we go now. Fighting Potatoes working their way towards that golden box of victory. Not too far away here. Mr. Mountain Mike dropped very low. Not quite taken down, however, as the Potatoes get to the choke point here. We see Man Bro Dude on this Hanzo finds another head. Not any kills this time around yet, but Dila does go down early here for the Fighting Potatoes. So Potatoes now are going to need to get a bit of a rally here, 5v6. Mr. Mountain Mike very low as the Man Bro Dude's trying to hunt them down, but cannot find them. Mudkip taken very low as well. Potatoes still looking for the way to close out this fight. Man Bro Dude locked in a duel here. Now is just so deep in the backline of the Turbo Thrower. Or, sorry, that's Mr. Mountain Mike. I got my people crossed up here. Ty, help me out.
I mean, you don't need to make anything happen here for Turbo Throwers. You just need to buy as much time as you possibly can and make it so that once the overtime wick hits, then you win the fight. You don't need to win anything right now. Just let Fighting Potatoes waste their own time, and eventually you'll be looking good. Pull.
And we see the pull with the dragon. The dragon's going to find Mr. Mountain Mike, and that's might be the kill they need to get this ball rolling. Mr. Mountain Mike taken out here. We see the we see the suck now in as well from Girl Boss, and a big lift from Solitary Bird, but he's stunned out of it. Huge stun right there for the Turbo Throwers to open that up. I believe that was Shen Shen on that stun. But Fighting Potatoes now pushing. We see push from both teams here. Ultimates being invested for both teams. 1 minute still on the clock here, Ty. But a huge lift from Girl Boss is going to create the opening for the Turbo Throwers to finish this fight off. And the Fighting Potatoes now are staring one fight left potentially here, Ty. This is all or nothing right now for the Potatoes. And a push that seems so promising has turned completely sour.
Yeah, it's the rally that needs to find something for Sneaky Kittens. You can't switch off to the Lucio here, even though you're going on to the Brawl. It can be so hard to chase down some of these heroes, but all you have to do is sit on the payload, and eventually Turbo Throwers are going to need to back up if your Reinhardt's finding enough value. The Immortality Field can make sure of it. Rally early, engage now.
All right, and here we go. Sneaky Kittens now leading the way with that rally. Shen Shen is sitting on that Deadeye, trying to find Vila. Uses the Deadeye here, trying to find some kills, and they're huge! Taking down 3 of the Fighting Potatoes on his own is Shen Shen, and now the Fighting Potatoes are in absolute dire straits here with 5 seconds on the clock. I don't even know if anybody's going to be able to touch here, Ty. It looks like Pugster's going to have to try to sneak in, but they cannot, and the Turbo Throwers, with an incredible defense on Juggertown, are going to hold on and take this match 3-1.
Yeti, my good friend, the Turbo Thrower train never stops, and that is the evidence. Shen Shen has been a threat and a half. I'm not even going to wait until later. They get my MVP. They get my ticket. You're my president now. I don't care anymore. Shen Shen, I'm voting for you for governor of the world at this rate.
Turbo Throwers needed a lot of big plays there to come up big, and they absolutely did. Fantastic match from the Turbo Throwers. 2 teams here that look really good for elimination pool teams are both fighting for that opportunity to get into the Tranquility playoffs. And unfortunately, Fighting Potatoes staring a loss in the face, probably looking at having to win the last 2. Turbo Throwers getting off to that early win. They got to be feeling good right now, looking at prime position to move on to the next round here and get into the playoffs.
Yeah, if you're Fighting Potatoes, you're starting to hear some low health Pokemon black and white music. Doo-doo, doo-doo, because you are terrified. You can't lose another match. If you do, then you are in a very scary position to even make it to the playoffs. It's not likely. So Turbo Throwers put themselves in a great position. This looks like one of the better teams in elimination, as you already said. My MVP vote has already been slipped in. Who's yours?
I was impressed with 2 people in particular. One on both teams. I think Manbro Dude is hard to rule out there for the impact they had on those last couple of maps. But for me, I have to give it, despite the insanity at times, I have to give it to Mr. Mountain Mike.
Mhm.
There was so many times where Mr. Mountain Mike just would make this crazy flank, this crazy play, and for some reason, they just found a way to make it work every single time. And you got to give credit to a player like that. It's all or nothing at times. And for the Turbo Throwers tonight, all seem to be the predominant statement there.
Yeah, and one other player I want to give to a mention to, because we never talk about main supports, but
No.
even throughout the whole time when they were losing towards the end, Fighting Potatoes, it looked like they were losing in every single position except one, and that was main support. Sneaky Kitten was an incredible Lucio, a great Mercy, and a great break that whole time. Looked to be like, I don't even think Jacob was a bad player throughout all of that. I just think Sneaky Kitten looks to be one of the best Harmony players overall. I am confident in saying that, even though they lost right now, Sneaky Kitten, one of the best main supports in our lowest tier that we have in Tranquility, and easily I think next season could move up if they keep playing at this level that we saw from her tonight. She is a great main support player. I'm very excited to see what she does moving forward.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, Turbo Throwers, coming up big here, winning that one. And special thanks, of course, to you, Ty, for the analysis tonight. And, of course, to Unfeatured and Hippie on the production. Fantastic work from both of you guys. But as a reminder, we have more broadcasts coming out the remainder of the week here. Tomorrow we have the Discord tier feature match as well. And we have Beat Drop immediately following that. So you're not going to want to miss both of those shows. Make sure to tune in, get those Trank bucks, and you're not going to want to miss any minute of that here, guys. As a reminder, tomorrow's match is between Valkyrie and Redacted. Should be a fantastic one. I hope you guys do enjoy. But for everybody here at Tranquility Gaming, we appreciate you tuning in tonight, and we'll see you again tomorrow.